With the last stand of humanity crumbling into a total disaster, a horde of monsters is slaughtering everyone. Amid the chaos, two champions are locked in a fierce battle. The Empire's mightiest champion, AIDS, faced a knight in black armor. But don't worry about AIDS. He's just a minor character who has finally met his end, grunting like a typical Death Knight as he fades away into nothingness. And yes, folks, the story's main character is actually the Death Knight. The fight against AIDS hit him with a heavy blow. His helmet cracks down the middle and tumbles to the floor. He stares around in a daze, clearly lost and confused. A moment later, his glowing red eyes fade back to a normal blue. He takes a moment to look around at everything going on around him. His jaw dropped in shock when he saw what was waiting for him. But this one isn't his. It belongs to his master, the Arch Dorgo, a 1,000-year-old drama queen. Dorgo's philosophy is that you serve him as his reward, and he thinks you're a great guy for it. But right as Dorgo grabs for the crown boom, the Death Knight swings his blade and smashes it into pieces. I was stuck inside my own body, watching everything happen, which is a truly special kind of nightmare. His eyes, no longer red with forced control, now blaze with a brilliant blue-green fire, as his will truly becomes his own. He takes on the other Demon Kings, as if they were just level 1 enemies. Suddenly, Dorgo's whole undead army vanished in a flash. He finally shows his life's work, a sword technique made for one thing only, to cut Dorgo's soul apart. With a strike that tears a hole in the sky, his long-awaited revenge is finally done. Since his goal was reached, there is nothing left to do, and his journey is finally over. All that's left is the heavy guilt of the terrible things he was forced to do, including taking the lives of his own family. With no reason to stay alive, he plunges his sword straight into his own heart. He has no idea how long he was gone, but when he opens his eyes, his sister is staring right at him. She playfully mocks him for hanging out, and then urges him to rush inside. He stands frozen in shock, wondering if he's dreaming before he ends up in hell. As he watches her walk toward the family mansion, his blood turns to ice because he knows he once destroyed this very place with his own hands. He stared at his hands and saw they were human, making him wonder if his life as a Death Knight was just a nightmare or if this was actually a dream, as one crazy idea started to take shape in his mind. He finds a stick and tests it on a giant boulder, but when he swings, the stick snaps with a disappointing thud. He takes a hit, but then a wild grin spreads across his face because a second later, the massive boulder shatters into a million pieces around him, proving that delayed damage is the best kind. He can't stop himself, so he throws his head back, lets out a wild, happy laugh, and falls to his knees. Just as the rain began to fall, the truth finally landed on him. This isn't just a dream. He's not just back in the past. He has all his powers right back too. Let's take a quick look back because since he was just a boy, he's always believed he had a special gift. He had a special talent for staining his family's honor and trampling all over their future. In this memory, his sister is forced into a carriage and taken to marry a nobleman she despises. In a different memory, his mother begs to know why he used their family land as security for a loan. The heavy burden of his errors presses him down as his father's last order echoes. Go. So he remembers stepping away and leaving his broken dad slumped in defeat. But right before he was leaving forever, his sister Louise called out to give him money and, with a sad smile, just wished him well. He was crushed by the heavy guilt of knowing he had destroyed her entire life. Overcome with shame, he snatched the money and ran away, crying like a coward as he fled his home and disappeared into the woods. The memories slip away, and he finds himself back in the real world. The rain has finally stopped, leaving him kneeling in a field bathed in sunlight. He had always wanted to say sorry to his family, but he never imagined he could actually return in time to do so. He gazes up at the sky, lost in thought, wondering if he's finally found a miracle or a second chance. He grips his hand into a tight fist, knowing his aging body is far too weak to even use his simplest moves. He can't even use wave breaking, a special move that makes his hits hit much harder than they would normally. He earned that crazy power only after he killed the infamous knight called the Castle Wall Destroyer. All at once, a voice jolts him back from his daydream. Young master, a servant is running fast toward you. Damon scratches his head, trying to remember the kid's name. Then suddenly it clicks. It's Victor. Victor breathes hard and says Lady Louise sent him, while his father goes completely crazy. Damon forgets what he did and asks what happened, leaving Victor shocked, while a furious roar and a sword swing crash down on him back of the mansion. The blade halts mere inches from his neck, wielded by his father, whose eyes burn with pure red rage. His mother and sister rush to stop him, begging him to hold back just before he does something foolish, and that's when Damien realizes he's been thrown back to the exact moment he ran away from home. He missed this so much that tears streamed down his face, shocking his entire family. His sister whispers his name, believing his father's anger has finally broken him. His father wants the truth spoken aloud, so if you have a mouth, use it to speak. Damon stared straight at him and said, "I have none," leaving his father shocked and silent. Paul stares in shock as his son, who used to always make pathetic excuses, finally steps up and takes responsibility. Damon stood tall and admitted it was all my fault, with no excuses to be made. Before his father can argue back, Damon quickly steps in and says, "I'll make it up to you." He vows to correct every single one of his past errors before turning and walking out the door. With a proud grin on his face, he says, "I'll come back to face my true punishment." His whole family stands in stunned silence, wondering if he actually got knocked out cold in that bar fight. A short while later, Damon and Victor reached the bustling merchant town of Landwork. Victor trembles with fear, urgently telling Damien that this spot is ruled by a deadly crime ring. Damien says he can go if he's afraid, but Victor won't leave his master behind. "Don't worry," Damien promises, saying he will sincerely apologize and make things right. Victor, still shaking with fear, watches helplessly as Damon walks by himself into the courtyard. Damien has no idea how or why he ended up back in the past, but one thing is clear. If this is a second chance, he won't let his family down again. Not this time. His eyes burn with fresh fire as he marches forward, determined to fix his past mistakes. Just as Damon reaches his goal, two huge guards step in front of him and refuse to let him pass. They spot him right away and shout why he's back now after telling him to stay away. Damien whispers to himself that it's been a long time, but those clowns look strangely like people he knows. He speaks in a quiet voice, telling the owner he's back to say sorry for the mess he made last time. The two thugs stand frozen and completely confused by his calm attitude. Then one of them bursts out laughing, making fun of him for suddenly acting polite just because he's a noble. The thug scoffed that Damon was just trash from a broken home, but he admitted the kid was tougher than anyone expected. His partner smirks and mentions that the family's woman is a stunning beauty, a move that will prove to be his undoing. The thug sneers with a nasty grin, grabbing Damon's shoulder and suddenly deciding to take back that apology. He leans right into Damon's face and says he'll take the deal if Damon shows him his pretty sister. Suddenly, Damien grabs the thug's arm, twists it hard, and snatches the knife right out of his hand. "I thought I could just say sorry and go home," he tells himself as the thugs scream. "But I guess I thought I was stronger than I really am." The disarmed thug is cut off mid-sentence when his hand, cleanly sliced right at the wrist, drops to the floor in a splash of blood. He just stares at it with a look of total shock. Just a second later, the pain hits so hard that he lets out a scream that could freeze blood. When the first bad guy hits the ground, his friend pulls out his sword, but Damon just turns around and speaks with an icy voice. "Let me show you exactly what the Haxon Vount's eldest roughneck son is really like." From a safe spot, poor Victor can only stammer out words of pure horror. "Little master, I figured you'd show up to fix things." A scream so loud it makes your blood run, cold bounces off the buildings and fills the streets. Naturally, this grabbed everyone's attention, and look, there is Victor already worrying about his young masters, so get used to seeing that worried face. Down on the street, our boy Damien stands over a beaten man while another swings a sword at him. Yet he acts totally cool and just tells the attacker to hurry up with it. The thug puffs up and roars about how nobody messes with his crew, while a black snake slithers by like a scary threat that sounds like it was invented in middle school. That name, Black Snake, strikes a chord with Damien, and the broken pieces of his mind start to turn as he remembers. Oh yeah, he remembers them now, the Black Snake. It turns out a powerful criminal gang is trying to take over this area, which is classic villain behavior. It all kicked off when our guy complained about a bar tab that cost too much, and that was the only reason needed. So they let him have a free beatdown and humiliated him right in front of everyone. It wasn't his finest hour, let's face it. And now, in this very moment, the truth strikes him hard. Wait a minute. Actually, he's the one who deserves an apology because he's absolutely right. And there it is, folks, the psycho smirk that makes even the tough guy hesitate, wondering why this noble is smiling right before things turn crazy. Yet he can't resist and charges in any way, determined to teach him a lesson. He dashes ahead, bringing his sword down with a loud roar. But then oops, Damien sidesteps, trips the guy, snatches his dagger while he's falling, and that is just disrespectful. And with a heavy thud, the guy face-plants straight into the dirt, and that had to sting. Damon snatches him by the hair and stares into those glowing eyes. "You're really getting good at drawing characters who are completely wild and out of control." He whispers that killing them all won't be enough, but he'll take it to protect his family. And I'm thinking, dude, what? And just like that, Slash finished the job, leaving the two thugs whimpering on the ground, but the real trouble might just be starting. He just gets his breath back when, naturally, more of them arrive. It feels like a video game where you never stop fighting endless waves of enemies. The new boss man looks suspicious and asks if Damon is from a rival gang, which seems like a pretty reasonable question. Damien acts calm as he says he's here to apologize, but now he's actually complaining to the owner that this isn't a Wendy's. The boss won't take no for an answer and threatens to beat us up if we don't talk, so he sends his thugs to attack our guy. As 3 more guys charge at him, Damien just sighs, finding the whole arrogant situation both annoying and oddly fun while clearly being done with it. In a dizzying blur, Damon dances his way through the crowd, dodging, blocking, and striking just like a deadly performer. He slips past one last blow, and in an instant, the fight is done. The leader just stands there, jaw dropped to the floor, completely shaken. His crew is running around the ground, crying out in pain from their fresh wounds, and it is a total disaster for the Black Snake. But our boy is already out of breath, admitting this new body feels too weak because he's been made weaker in this version of events. He asks the trembling leader if he's ready to go next, and the man instantly starts begging for mercy with a smile and apologies on his face. Damien has lost all kindness, so he charges forward in the dark to strike the final blow. Crunch! One powerful punch sends the leader flying backward. The man crashes right through the bar doors in front of everyone, making quite an entrance. After a brutal day that left the thug completely destroyed, Damien calmly admits he might have gone a little too far. Damien stands in the doorway, swallowed by shadows and looking terrifying, which proves you should have taken my kindness to heart, because right now, you're getting the chills. He drags the body inside while everyone else rushes out, a very smart move indeed. Soon the bar falls quiet, and finally the noisy troublemakers are gone. He says this guy is so sharp that his skills are truly off the charts. Just as they reach the letter Q, a voice shouted down from the second floor. What's making all that noise? Go meet the manager at Anderson's house. Damien casually glances up and tells the stunned owner that he has already taken care of the guards outside. He is stunned that this kid killed his men and is now demanding to know who he is. He's about to learn he crossed the wrong protagonist, so Damon steps forward and introduces himself as Damon Haxon of Haxon County, a name Anderson knows all too well. He says he isn't there to fight. He just wants an apology, one that's been long overdue. He tells the owner about the time his men beat him up over a bar tab, a fight that ruined his reputation. Because of that one event, he was labeled a troublemaker and his whole family lost everything. Now his eyes burn with rage, and it's time for revenge. Anderson doesn't care about lost honor at all. He just scoffs, claiming the Hashin family has no honor left to lose, which is such a low blow. You foolish noble, he mocks, telling Damien to stop playing around and pay for the damage, and I swear this guy has a death wish. Damien wears his crazy grin again and says, I see. I was ready to forgive you if you just said sorry. But if this is how you want to play, then so be it. Though I'm pretty sure those are our friend Anderson's famous last words. Suddenly whoosh. He rockets from the ground floor straight to the balcony to attack the shocked owner, going all out. You too will pay for what you said, he warns, reaching out with pure menace. His eyes burn with an eerie purple light as he charges up a blow, muttering, this isn't going to be pretty, only to have his punch stopped dead by a strange figure suddenly wrapped in a flash of blue energy. The block's punch sends him flying backward, and even he is shocked by how powerful that hit was. He lands on his feet and looks up at the new challenger who has just stepped into the ring. Anderson is acting all self-satisfied now, shouting, Ooh, Sir Ted, you made it just in time, even though Ted isn't exactly a scary name. Damon knows this feels off because a man with that much muscle shouldn't just be a higher guard, and the numbers just don't add up. Damien asks with narrowed eyes why Sir Ted, a knight in full armor with glowing red eyes, is in such a place. All right, listen up. In this world, knights rule everything, and their status depends entirely on how sharp their sword skills are, ranging from the new trainees to the legendary masters. True knights are on another level, wielding a godlike aura that lets them slice through monsters and castle walls like they're nothing. Back at the bar, our villain of the week, Anderson, is having a total meltdown and laughing like a complete maniac. He's mocking Sir Ted, the Black Snake's boss, as nothing more than a rookie apprentice, sneering that you're all doomed while feigning terror. Yet down on the main floor, Damien just stares up at them with a deadpan look, silently pointing out the sheer disrespect. A little smirk plays on his lips, revealing the tiny aura he hid earlier, leaving Sir Ted totally stunned that this kid could sense his power even without using it properly. And Damon, our very own little detective, pieces the whole thing together to realize a knight would only work in a dump like this because he's a total failure, while Anderson tries to bribe Ted to take Damon out, only for Ted to refuse because he's still too upset by Damien's lack of respect. He growls, We'll talk about money later before leaping off the balcony while I decide to tear that mouth of his apart first. But Damien didn't even flinch. He casually deflected the blow with his small knife, and the clash of steel against steel shook the tavern so hard the wooden floorboard shattered. Sir Ted lands and looks pretty shocked by how strong Damien is. He thinks the young apprentice is too good to mess with, so he stops joking, his eyes turn a scary blue, and he cuts the air with a mighty whoosh. Damon slams backward as the hit knocks his soft new body to its breaking point, just as Ted explodes in rage and unleashes a blow you'd better try to dodge. A huge burst of blue energy explodes from him as my friend realizes he's unlocking a hidden power. Damon's eyes go wide as he realizes he's seen that secret move before. And then, just like that, we're thrown back in time. We're seeing Damien's past life as the legendary Phantom Assassin, and that guy sure looks edgy. The assassin smirks with glowing red eyes, whispering that killing all humans would make the world boring. So go ahead and call the FBI on him. He faces a scary warrior who looks just like the Dark Knight he used to be, and Damien realizes that this meeting is really awkward. The assassin screams for you to flee or face death, yet the Death Knight stands frozen in place, refusing to budge. The assassin's huge size clearly annoyed her, so she decided to kill him and showed him her secret technique since he asked for death. The assassin says that once you reach a certain level, you can actually see the water inside a person's body, and the writer asks if he is serious. With his hidden blade of death technique, he splits the Death Knight right in half using only a wooden sword, leaving everyone asking, how is that even possible? But to the assassin's absolute horror, the bloody remains on the ground start to bubble and reform. Oh, how? I sliced you in half. The assassin stares, unable to believe his eyes as the horrifying truth dawns on him. Don't tell me you're undead. Before the assassin can even blink, the fully reformed Death Knight unleashes his own terrifying aura. In a twist just like the final Uno reverse card, the Death Knight copies the assassin's deadly move, turning the blade of death right back on them. The assassin screams in pure terror, his face frozen in fear as he realizes he's been completely outsmarted by your secret technique. A moment later, he's dead, and back in the present, Sir Ted lies on the tavern floor, stuck by his own blade. Damien remembered it all. The terrifying new power he gained after becoming a Death Knight was the one thing he couldn't forget. He can steal his enemy's skills and make them his own, acting as a perfectly balanced walking skill thief. Standing on the balcony, Anderson freezes in terror, shaking as he stares at his dead knight. Without missing a beat, he dives to the floor and grumbles, "I'm sorry for dishonoring you." The great Haxon then looks over a chest of treasure and asks with cold eyes if it is enough to make up for what he did. He only asked for sorry, but hey, free stuff is free, so even if it isn't perfect, I guess I can let it go. He then calls his servant, Victor, to come and pack up all the treasure. Victor peeks out from his hiding spot, his eyes going wide with shock before he scrambles to obey his crazy young master. As Victor hurriedly shoves the gold into his bag, his mind races with disbelief. How could Damien have learned to wield a sword so quickly? Anderson and his men bow low as Damon and Victor walk away, but the bar owner is quietly furious. "I'll make sure I get it all back from you, brat," he mutters, already plotting to report this to the Black Snake's real boss. Suddenly, a blade flashed past his head and sliced right off his ear. Damon's icy stare burns into him as he warns him to pass the message to the Black Snake, threatening never to let anyone hurt his family get away with it, leaving Anderson clutching his bleeding head and cursing Damon's name as their hero walks away cool as a cucumber. As they walk into the sunset, Damon knows one good deed can't erase his past mistakes, but he's determined to make his family proud again. So he smiles and says, "Let's go home, Victor." While at the ridiculously grand Lion Bloom March estate, strange things are starting to happen. A young man whispers to his brother, "Have you heard this phrase? Pain always follows love." A what? His brother looks at him in a mirror. "What are you talking about? Making that serious face. Are you going to battle somewhere?" "No," the man replies with a sly, confident smirk. "I'm going to find love, my friend," which sounds as scary as anything you could imagine. The morning after a good old-fashioned beatdown, Damon wakes up at the Hawken estate feeling refreshed for the first time in what is probably ever. But Victor, his faithful servant, looks like he just saw a ghost. He's so jealous that Damien slept peacefully while he lay awake all night, worrying himself sick. Damon just gives him a smug little smirk, acting like things went sideways, but hey, they still walked away with a serious pile of loot. But here's the real 4D chess move, he says, because now everyone will whisper that crossing the Hawken family is a terrible idea. He even adds that this should fix his reputation with his son, leaving Victor stunned as he realizes someone actually called the new people by that name. Victor, our resident worrywart, is still freaking out and reminds Damon that he didn't just beat up some thugs, but an apprentice knight from the Black Snake gang. Damien waves it off like he's swatting a fly. Sure, the gang won't touch a noble, and even if they try, he'll stop them, easy as breathing. And you know what? Victor actually believes him because Damon's sword skills are just that insane. Finally, he has to ask, so, young master, when did you learn to do that? While Damon casually claims he just practices sometimes, a lie that Victor immediately sees right through with a look that says he doesn't believe a word. Just as he tries to ask for more, a furious voice screams from the hall, "Damien!" "Oh look, it's Dad," he says, looking like he's about to break the law as Paul charges at him like a runaway freight train, screaming, "You brat, where were you?" He grabs Damon by the collar and demands to know what trouble is brewing, while his wife, Marilda, begs him to calm down in this classic family drama. "But our boy is as cool as a cucumber. Don't you worry, father. I got all handled." Victor, showing goods because this guy's smoothness is just criminal. Victor unzipped his bag, and out popped a huge pile of shiny gold coins and a land deed, leaving his parents' jaws dropped so hard they might have made a dent in the floor. Just as the tavern's math errors were blamed for a late gift, Damon claims these mistakes will finally fix their overdue pay, a move that feels far too smooth to be true. His dad still doubts it, but kind Marilda says there's no other way he could have found it, though he's hardly smart enough to do it himself. Wait, actually, maybe he is. Then Damien, that real trouble, corners poor Victor right there. "If you don't believe me, just ask Victor since he was there. Isn't that true?" He even gives him a wink. Victor, dripping with sweat after what felt like forever, finally gives in, convinced his parents are just bursting with joy and relief. Victor just watches and thinks, "Young master," while Damon gives a real smile, proving he's not a total monster, just mostly one. Later, Damon returns to his grind, but his stamina bar remains pitifully low. He quickly realizes this new body is far too weak, and he shouts, "Artist, you made him a real weakling." "Good thing I grabbed this," he says, holding up a glowing purple vial. "Ooh, a potion. Do we find some rare loot?" He suddenly remembers the terrified bar owner, Anderson, begging him to take it. Turns out, it's a special stamina booster from the Alchemy Academy. It turns out these ordinary items sell for the same price as rare gems, which means he was just incredibly lucky. Our boy's luck has definitely hit its absolute limit. He gulps it all down without even hesitating. Kaboom! A huge purple energy blast explodes around him as he shouts, "This stuff is super strong," before clenching his fist and realizing that while the power boost feels great, he must first train hard to build up his endurance. His biggest goal is to return to the unbeatable power he once had as a Death Knight, and honestly, we just love a comeback story like that. His mind instantly jumps to the terrifying Dorgo, knowing his undead army will rise again in just a few years like a pesky advertisement. Before it's too late, he clenches his face in rage and mutters, "I need to get strong enough to kill him." "You do it, Tiger." Only then does he promise that he can finally keep his family safe and happy. See, he hides a tender heart deep beneath all that deadly rage. Bringing back his courage, he starts running again and shouts at the wind. "This time, I'm going to kill you for sure, Dorgo, because my man is dedicated." Meanwhile, at the Black Snake's lair, the mood is dark and full of villain vibes. Deep inside, the boss discovers that Ted, the guy Damien nerfed last night, is now almost totally useless, and he sighs in regret. He was the best man we hired, but he was so cold. Cedric Walker, the boss with an emotional range like a brick, coldly tells his men to dump the body somewhere. He's useless to them now, so they don't care and just buy a new mercenary with plenty of cash because money talks. Just as they were about to drag him away, Ted suddenly used his sword like a crutch to stand up again, proving just how tough he really is. Cedric laughed and offered to fix him up and even take him back, a terrible mistake that was the very worst thing he could have done. Ted lets out a furious roar, goes into full berserker mode, lunges at his old boss screaming, "Screw you, you bastard." But before his sword can even connect, swoosh! A dark shadow bursts from the earth and pins Ted in the air, leaving him screaming as a cloaked stranger emerges from the dark to ask if this is the perfect target for their job. And when Ted's friend nervously agrees, the stranger says, "Let's see what you can do." As the figure whispers a spell, the shadows shift and twist into terrifying one-eyed monsters, making you wonder if the artist really needs to take a chill pill with these spooky designs. As the monsters tear into him until only a crushed pile remains, Ted can only scream for his life before realizing, yikes. The cloaked figure just clears his throat, which makes Cedric look like he's about to be sick. So when the figure asks if he is satisfied, Cedric says yes, but tells him to make it a little cleaner next time, only for the figure to reply that the man was just eaten by shadows. So, The mysterious Shadow Man takes on his next job after the Black Snake boss explains that a spoiled noble has made trouble and needs to be dealt with. With a sickening grin, he explains that his goal isn't just to hit the target, but to make them suffer so their pain turns into a bigger reward for him. To make it official, the boss tosses a heavy bag of coins across the table as a down payment, proving that money really does talk. The hooded stranger takes the deal with a horrifying stitched grin and bright purple eyes, promising to handle it themselves and turning the situation into something truly exciting. Our boy Damien wakes up drenched in sweat from a grueling training session, just like every other day. He's been nonstop doing sit-ups with a huge rock on his back for days. And wouldn't you look at that? The shady juice he bought is working, and now his stamina is through the roof. Despite having this new strength, something feels off because the silence is too quiet for him. He was waiting for the Black Snake gang to arrive for the next fight, but instead of their usual noise, he heard a strange rustle in the bushes right there. His fear spikes instantly, and he tightens his fist, ready to punch out those Black Snake villains. Without a second's thought, he whirls around and knocks out anyone trying to sneak up on him. But when he finally looks at the guy he just punched, he realizes he has made a huge mistake. His little brother, Abel, is choking right there and barely holding on to stay awake. Damon lets go so fast that poor Abel crumples to the floor, proving once again how rough family reunions can get in this house. Abel coughed, and you thought you'd grown strong enough to make him happy his neck was still attached. This painful memory of Abel dead on the floor flashes through Damien's mind. He jolts awake to find himself horrified, but before he can apologize for his mistake, Abel's hand slaps away, showing he isn't ready to forgive. Abel says he doesn't want my apology, and his voice is as cold as ice, which sends a shiver up my spine. He mentions that his dad said Damien receive an apology, but he also heard that Damon ended up in a huge fight. No way you did that alone. Abel is accusing you. Are you lying to our family now? But Damon just gives him a calm, knowing smile, and it's true. That was all me. Abel snaps, refusing to be lied to since he knows you can't fight, seeing right through your tricks while the others might be fooled. He steps right up to Damon's face, berating him for bringing shame on the family and ruining the hard work they've done to clean up every mess. Damien, totally unfazed, casually grabs Abel's hand and stops his rant in its tracks. He casually ruffled his hair as if nothing had just happened, leaving Abel screaming in shock that his hands wouldn't budge even after Damon promised everything was fine. And right on cue, Victor sprints toward them in a total panic. Young masters, we have some terrible news. The two brothers didn't even wait. They charged straight in, smashing through the doors like a SWAT team. Inside, they see their parents sitting with a guest who is not welcome at all, and suddenly they know things are about to go wrong. The guest calmly sips his tea and says, "Oh, you're here," acting like he doesn't care at all about the situation. He steps up to tell them that he was just chatting with their dad about that little mix-up at the banquet. Damien's eyes tighten in anger as he sneers. "Oh, you snake. So I've already crossed you, have I?" Folks, this is Erwin Lion Bloom, the man who destroyed his sister's life, and Damien still remembers every single detail. Suddenly, the party scene shifts to a tense flashback where a furious Damien storms up to him and demands, "What did you just say?" Erwin acts like he doesn't get it, saying I meant no harm and apologizing if I hurt his feelings. Damon doesn't buy the excuse and calls Erwin a disgrace for his sister, while Erwin just smirks and blames it all on being drunk. Then he drops all pretense and leans in with a twisted, evil grin. "So what if I did?" he whispers with a sneer. "You what a piece of work this guy is," and Damon is suddenly reminded of his big past mistake where he completely fell for the bait. He finally snapped and punched Erwin so hard that he flew backward. The punch left a nasty bruise on Erwin's smug face, which he totally deserved. Back in the present, Erwin wraps up his sob tale and wonders how a knight from the future could get knocked out so easily. "Now, what should we do?" he asks, hinting at his secret plan to win Miss Louise's heart, while Damon's father, confused by the sudden turn, demands he just get to the point. "Please allow it," Erwin says with the creepiest smile I have ever seen. And just like that, the whole room freezes in absolute shock, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Damien's blood freezes in fear as he realizes the nightmare is repeating itself, with Erwin holding their family's secrets against them. He suggests they accept his small plan to make the whole attack disappear, but Paul, Damien's dad, shuts it down hard by saying, "We can't do that." Just like that, Erwin's friendly smile vanishes, leaving behind a cold, glaring stare. Paul tells Erwin that Louise is already taken, but Erwin just laughs and asks if they can really afford to upset his family. He laid out a simple choice. They could either pay the price for insulting him or choose him, which is the ultimate power play from this absolute creep. Paul is stuck because the Lion Bloom family is too strong, Yet he refuses to give up his daughter to that snake. But right as he's about to speak, a quiet voice speaks up from the doorway. I'll take that deal. Louise's family is terrified and her father is weeping as they beg her. Louise, what are you saying? Abel jumps in, pointing at Damien and saying, just wait. Why do you have to fix what he did? Damien just stares at the floor, utterly defeated, sister. But Louise just smiles softly, telling me she's fine and will go with Sir Erwin, while you watch Damien's heart shatter. Erwin can hardly hold back his sickening joy as he stands up, praises Miss Louise for her wisdom, and walks away, leaving everyone to think what a slimy jerk he is. He promised to send a proper marriage proposal soon, so they can figure out all the tiny details together. As he walks out, he stops right in front of a furious Damien and asks, got anything to say, or should I just call you brother-in-law? Louise spots the storm coming and yells his name, but Damien just grumbles quietly to himself. As Erwin leans in one last time to mock him, Damien takes the punch and suddenly remembers the trap he foolishly fell into. But listen, friends, this time is truly different. As Erwin crashes to the ground, Damien looms over him with his fist still raised, living up to his name in a true Chad moment. No, you jerk, he shouts, his eyes blazing with absolute determination. You'll never have her. We're diving into a classic tragic flashback, starting the day when his sister Louise brought that clown home. Back in those days, our boy Damien was just a happy kid, so excited to see his big sister, and when he peeked around the corner with such innocent eyes, he was ready to jump into her arms and tell her how much he missed her. And that's when his entire world crashes down, a moment perfectly captured in those dramatic close-up shots you artists love so much. He watches Erwin, the man they thought was a gentleman, reach out and grab his sister by the hair, and it's truly shocking. Erwin yells at her family like they're bugs and gets all possessive, which is a huge red flag. He throws her down and then, with zero shame, calls her my love, which honestly hurts. He even slips on gloves while talking about teaching her, proving he's a proper villain. Poor little Damien can only watch helplessly, so he just squeezes his tiny fist tight. He bursts in only to find himself frozen in shock, while Erwin, caught off guard, simply collapses in self-blame instead of fighting, proving just how useless our boy was back then. His mind is a boiling storm of anger, screaming that he will never forgive this man. In the classic Shounen power-up fuel, we're back in the present where he finally gets his payback, and you love to see it as the whole family stands there speechless, their jaws on the floor at Erwin. That loud noise brings Erwin's personal goons running to see what happened. They burst through the door to find their beloved young master lying on the floor, and a sheer horror stops them in their tracks. And what's their first reaction? They pull their swords on Damien, of course. Did you hurt him? Yeah, look at him. But Erwin springs to his feet, laughing like a madman, and you can see he has lost his mind. He snatches his sword, furious that he got punched in the face twice, even though his pride is hurt far more than his cheek. Mom and Dad watch in horror with frozen hearts as Erwin pulls his sword, and now things have gone too far. He's got such a scary, deadly vibe that you want to run away. Yet he's telling people to chill because he only threw a punch, and even his guards are worried he's about to do something reckless. But Erwin refuses to back down, growling at them to leave because he's lost his mind to a power trip. One guard steps up to save Damien, a brave but foolish move. As a thank you for his effort, Erwin backhands his own man across the room, proving he's the worst kind of boss. With his fist shining, he repeats, I said move. Get it? You're angry. Meanwhile, Abel and Louise sit frozen, watching this family dinner turn into a nightmare in seconds. He creeps closer to Damien, asking how he plans to fix this, but his friend just laughs and says the fists have already taken care of it. Louise, scared her brother is about to get chopped up, finally jumps and stops them. But Damien stops her this time, telling her, not again, sister. He tells her he's got this, and that she needs to stop sacrificing herself. And oh, our boy is finally growing a spine. Then he turns to Erwin, slaps him down with the classic duel challenge, and I just love that old school trope. Damien lays out the rules. If Erwin wins, he gets his way, but if Damien wins, Erwin must drop it. Erwin scoffs, and says he gets nothing since Louise already said yes. And while he's right, he's also a jerk. Damien slaps him with the ultimate playground dare. Are you scared you'll lose to me? It works perfectly. And you can see the gears turning in Erwin's head as he thinks this is the perfect excuse to legally punch Damien. With a wicked grin, he accepts the deal, already plotting to kidnap Damien and drag his sister away. What a charming fellow. So the courtyard is ready for the big fight, with Damon's parents panicking while his dad trusts their son's new confidence, though big brother Abel warns him not to get his hopes up because Erwin is a real knight. As the duel starts, Erwin laughs and asks what Damon will use since he has no sword, but Damon just smirks, pulls out a dinner fork, and says, This is enough for you, showing such total disrespect that I absolutely love it. Erwin is completely stunned. When asked about a fork, he replies, "My friend, we're both in the same boat," leaving the Hashin family watching with wide eyes as if their son has lost his mind, which, honestly, makes perfect sense. After a second of stunned silence, Erwin just bursts out laughing, unable to believe what he's seeing. He is sure Damon has lost his mind to terror, and while he might be right about that, he's about to find out otherwise. He warns that he won't hold back, and suddenly bolts forward with serious speed, shouting, "Let's go." He swings, whoops. Damon just casually sidesteps it like it's nothing. Erwin stands in shock because he actually dodged it. "So keep up, buddy." Playtime is over, so Erwin pulls out his family's famous move, unleashing a giant energy line that roars at Damien, making Ryder laugh at how obvious the attack name is. The strike misses the target and only digs a huge hole in the yard, so let's hope they have good insurance. But once the dust clears, Damien is just standing there acting totally fine, still holding onto that ridiculous fork. Erwin and his thugs are going crazy, but he's still fine, and honestly, it's a total mess right now. Then it clicks. Damien didn't just get lucky. He slipped past every tricky part of the attack with perfect timing. Damien realizes he's shaken his opponent, thanks not just to his training, but because he's already lived through this exact moment before. See, back in his past life, he already crushed Michael, Erwin's older brother, so facing him now feels like an easy mode boss rush. Compared to his big brother, Erwin looks pitifully weak, staring at him as if he were a weak tutorial boss. Erwin, sure it was just luck, charges up again and wraps his punches in glowing energy, daring Damien to dodge. He charges forward with total confidence that the move can't be dodged, but those are his very last words, "friend." Damien calmly watches the attack, then decides to pull out his Sword Saint technique with a fork. Boom! A massive blast of energy explodes from a clash, leaving everyone watching stunned. Abel and Louise just stare in total shock, with absolutely no clue what's happening to their little brother. Erwin's sword hangs frozen in midair, its blade stopped inches from Damien's face. He stares down in total confusion, wondering what could possibly be going on, while secretly admiring the artist's cool, glowing red eyes. Damien managed to block the giant, glowing sword with nothing but a single dinner fork. And now it's Damien's turn. So he unleashes his secret move called Countless Thunder Shadow Revelation, which honestly makes you wonder who decided on such a strange name. His eyes flash blue as he lunges forward for the final strike. He even says goodbye, which is pretty dramatic. Just like that, it's all over. The fork everyone made fun of is now pinned against Erwin's throat, and with one last wild lunge, Damien shouts bye before driving the rail dinner fork home to stop him dead in his tracks. The entire family stands frozen in shock, jaws dropped, wondering exactly what to do next. Even Erwin's own knight is just standing there screaming his head off, which is a little late for that, buddy. A single drop of blood runs down his neck, and our crazy hero really gets it wrong by using a fork, causing Erwin to scream in disbelief and collapse like a sack of potatoes. Damien is so furious he'd rather kill this scum a dozen times, but for his family's sake, he's forcing himself to let it go for now. He quietly says the fight is done and asks if you're okay with declaring a winner. With a voice as cold as ice, he told Erwin to get lost, and the next morning at breakfast, the air was so thick with awkwardness you could have sliced it with a fork. Damon casually finishes his meal as if nothing happened, thanks everyone, and declares he's heading to his morning workout, which is total Chad behavior. And just like that, he vanishes, leaving his family to soak up all the strangeness. Milda, his mom, finally breaks the silence and turns to Paul to ask if he'll question Damien about what just happened. She notes that even his brother Abel is completely shaken, whispering that Damien changed overnight. But Paul shuts it down firmly, saying, "Stop. Let's not push him. He'll speak up when the time is right," which sounds like something a true leader would say, doesn't it? He tells himself he's just curious, but deep down, he's too scared to even look at his own son. Meanwhile, Damon straps 10-kilogram sandbags to his legs to start his training, doing what every hero is expected to do. Just as he's about to leave, his sister Louise shouts out, looking incredibly glad to see him still there. She begins to explain what happened, but Damon quickly shuts her down, convinced he's in trouble and needs to apologize. And he gives a deep, formal bow to apologize for acting recklessly and putting her in a tough spot, but she quickly stops him and says it isn't that. Then she whispers, "Thank you," admitting that even though she told Erwin she'd go, her heart was screaming no the entire time. Damon just listened as the truth settled in. His sister never meant to go through with it. She remembered the time he stood up and hit Erwin, feeling sad that he got in trouble, but also thrilled that he did it. Tears filling her eyes, she smiles and whispers one last time, "Thank you, Damien." A soft smile creeps across Damien's face as he realizes it's actually me who needs to say thank you to his sister for all her time. Just as he's about to fly away, Louise shouts, "Damien, take this." She hands him a short sword, saying it was their father's favorite thing and meant for his training, even though he's bad at showing it but loves him very much. Channeling their dad perfectly, she tells him, "You're from AV County, so never use a fork instead of a sword again." And as Damien unsheathes the gleaming blade with a look of pure satisfaction, silently thanking his father, they claim their new loot. Miles away, Paul lets out a huge sneeze and wonders what caused it. So you know the old joke, my friends. But later that night, the mood changes as a dark purple shadow creeps across the Hashin grounds under the full moon. The guards standing at the gate are totally useless, with one even yawning in his sleep, which doesn't exactly scream great security. A shadow creeps up behind them, a single glowing purple eye opening in the dark, and oh no, that is very bad. Suddenly, the guards vanish into the darkness, and a cloaked figure appears at the gate. Well, that was all for nothing when it came to those guards. The intruder slips through the quiet mansion like a ghost, casting a long, scary shadow down the dark hallway. The whole family is fast asleep, never realizing the danger has crept into their home, and that is perfectly okay. The assassin finally finds Lewis in his own bedroom, exactly where he expected to be. A cloaked figure with stitched skin from the Black Snake Gang stands over a bed, and honestly, these character designs are wild. He grins with a sense of false confidence as he reaches for her, proving he's nothing but a creep. Just as he reached out to grab her, a voice from the doorway made the assassin stop dead in his tracks. Damien leans against the frame holding his new blade, his eyes glowing a scary red, asking what you're doing before he gets too strong for the game. Damien stands ready to face a cloaked intruder in his sister's room, and with glowing red eyes, the guy asks, "What are you doing?" Because Damon sensed some weird energy and found this suspicious stranger looming over his sleeping sister, which is totally not creepy at all. The assassin is panicking in his head because his sleep spell was supposed to knock out the whole mansion, yet this tiny kid is still awake. Without hesitation, the panicked assassin unleashes a huge burst of dark purple magic right at our boy. Damien just flicks the attack away with his sword like it's a buzzing fly, showing just how much he doesn't respect it. The assassin stands frozen in shock, his bravado shattered as he stammers, "Who are you, little punk?" Damon flips the question right back at him, claiming the house as his own, which prompts Damien to glow with his deadly psycho mode and demand to know who Damon is and what he did to his sister, an explosion that instantly ruins the assassin's stealth mission as servants shout in alarm. He clicks his tongue in annoyance, knowing he has to bolt before the entire welcome committee arrives. He chose to leave, fading away until he became just a cloud of darkness. Damon shouts, "Stop right there," but the assassin yeets himself out the window, turning into a gooey shadow and vanishing into the night, leaving Damon cursing his luck until he spots a tiny wisp of dark energy left behind, a rookie mistake. The energy snags his sleeve like a magical GPS, making this adventure sure to be a blast. At the same time, far away on the estate, the servants are freaking out because something terrible is happening. They found that the Count's favorite horse is dead in the stables. That's a disaster for their annual performance review. Terrified and wondering how to explain it, they turn to find Damien appearing behind them like a ghost, calmly admitting he had a bad feeling just as he startles them. He tells them to relax, saying he won't blame them and just needs a moment to check something by lending him the room, as Damien places a hand on the dead horse and realizes the energy trail he was following led him right to this spot. There's no doubt in his mind now. That creepy energy is dark mana, meaning the intruder is a dark mage, and we've been caught off guard. He looks back at the house and chooses not to worry his family by telling them a dark mage is after them. The dark magic trail pulls him away from the estate and into a cave so scary it feels like a classic villain's hideout. In his dark and fully stocked evil lab, the mage laughs maniacally at all the stolen treasures he has gathered. He's rubbing it in that he tricked the Black Snake boss out of all these materials to use for his own dark experiments. He keeps complaining about how much he's lost, but since the church is hunting him, he really had no choice left but to play the part of the fallen hero. Just as he settles down to rest quietly, an unknown shadow suddenly appears in his hiding spot, sending him jumping in surprise. He jumps at the sound of someone saying, "Oh, what a stench," only to see Damien at the door suggesting they crack a window, leaving the mage stunned and stammering. He knew him at once. "You're the eldest son of Viscount Hacken, the one we met yesterday. How did you find this place?" the mage demands, but Damien coolly replies, "I simply followed the stench you left behind," earning him the title of Absolute Savage. The mage can't help but feel impressed, realizing that Damien is far more than just a reckless brat he had only heard about before. Damon skips the small talk and confirms the mage was hired by Black Snake to hurt his family, and the mage just nods like it's no big deal. Damon sneers at the irony of your situation, noting how you took on a dangerous job only to be on the verge of dying because of it. The mage just laughs and says you make a great pet if he captured and tortured you, but his last words were just a joke. Damon says no with a flat tone, and that is the final word. He says he promised himself he wouldn't kill anyone else in this life. Except for you, a filthy dark mage and the psycho hero we all adore, who's always finding loopholes. The mage was stunned, and you knew it too, meaning you weren't just some ordinary punk. Yeah, no kidding, Sherlock. With pure panic, the mage screams at Damien to just die already and blasts him with a wild storm of magic orbs, a classic panic attack. Damien is so fast he dodges the attack and gets right up in the mage's face before you can blink, leaving the mage feeling like their day just went wrong. Damon cuts the mage's dark shadow in half with one smooth move, but right then, things get weird. But the fight isn't done, because Damien watches in shock as the mage's body starts piecing itself back together again, just like the weird trick they saw back at the mansion. The wizard snaps back to life, laughing like a madman. That kind of blow won't hurt me, and he had to let the words slip anyway. Damien snaps back, letting a storm of ghostly blades erupt around him as he shouts, "Then I'll keep cutting you down until you're nothing. Let's go." The mage blocks the blow with a nod of approval, noting that the dark mage calmly declares you were already dead the moment you entered, only for the mage to laugh and reveal his trap as dozens of shrieking shadow monsters burst from the ground. Damon casts a quick look around, realizing things have just gotten way too complicated, as a bead of sweat on his forehead says it all. The dark mage unleashes a swirling vortex of purple energy and a terrifying spectral face, screaming that your entire body will rot and die to prove he means it. That dark magic twists inside the cave like a mad space noodle ready to jump. The mage smirks at Damien and delivers his classic villain speech, calling him an arrogant kid who has only shortened his own life. Look at this guy already counting his goal before the job is even done, convinced he's already won and dreaming of that fat paycheck. But our boy Damien just stands there completely unbothered, acting like a rotting curse is nothing special, while the mage starts sputtering in shock, desperate to know how Damien isn't melting into a puddle. He asks for answers, but Damon just returns that cool, mysterious look everyone knows. Suddenly, a glowing rune lights up on Damien's hand, reminding him that powers from his past life are still his, and the story just gets more exciting. All right, everyone, hold tight, because we're jumping back in time to see the scary Arch-Leo performing a spooky ceremony over a glowing urn. He looks down at his small project, a future Death Knight, knowing that even a strong body and magic won't be enough for his ultimate weapon. So he shouts, "Therefore, I shall also give you this power." And this guy really loves the eerie sound of his own skeletal voice, doesn't he? Then with a sudden whoosh, he blasts out a huge beam of pure power, his secret special sauce for the ultimate weapon. That raw power crashes down on the kneeling warrior like a tidal wave, swallowing him in a spinning storm of energy that looks like it's tearing him apart. Yeah, it really stings. The man is screaming in pain as the power is forced straight into his soul. Ouch! Meanwhile, Dorgo just watches with a creepy, satisfied grin, muttering to himself, "Finally, I got it," before asking, "Hey buddy, what did you end up getting?" The warrior stands up, his eyes glowing purple, and his power now so huge it almost feels like cheating. Back in the present, Damien stares at the same symbol, shocked to find the power of greed has returned even after he thought he had lost it. The mage, still completely confused, blasts away, but Damien just casually kicks the spell aside like a soccer ball. The mage is totally stunned and yelling out how Damon can still be standing when he should read the room better. Damien just smirks, claiming everyone has a trump card, but then a system window pops up that literally spells out plot armor, showing how much fun the artist is having. He remembers the mage comes from Yulon, a whole group of dark magic killers, basically the edgy kids club. Damien mutters to himself that the mage's skill and annoying attitude makes sense, but then he senses something is terribly wrong and decides it's time to stop joking around and end this. He declares that he's pulling out his secret trump card saved just for the church, but Damien doesn't even bother to hide his lack of interest. So the mage taps his bracelet, and suddenly a huge pillar of green energy explodes from him. His strength surges like a battery charging up, drawing all its hidden power from the magical device. And of course, Damien spots it right away and exclaims, "Ah, an artifact that holds dark mana," proving he knows exactly what kind of treasure to expect. The mage screams that Damien can't handle a giant green hellfire beast he just summons, but Damien laughs, roaring back as he charges to burn the fiery puppy down to nothing. The blast erupts, drowning everything in a huge green fire that seems like the end. Thinking he has won, the mage cackles like a madman about eternal hellfire, making the classic villain mistake. But then, a voice rises from the fire itself, and it's Damien saying, "You've misunderstood this terribly," sending shivers down your spine. The mage's jaw dropped in shock as the fire did something he never thought possible. Damien just stands there while the hellfire is pulled into him, proving his power doesn't just block magic, but actually eats it for breakfast. The mage is frozen in pure terror, screaming that a punk like Damien could possibly possess such a broken, godlike power. Damien just tells him to mind his own business and think of it as a serious gear gap, buddy, as he now prepares to strike. He's actually furious at having to use power from his hated enemy, Dorgo, but hey, a win is a win, right? The mage panics when he sees Damien's sword glow blue, realizing it's an aura blade, a deadly swordmaster trick. But Damien isn't just standing there waiting. He brings back his old, deadly move and tears through the enemy with swift slashes. As the attack slammed directly into the mage, his face froze in pure terror, capturing that perfect oh no moment. The blast wipes him and half the cave clean, which is seriously too much force for one hit. With that, the threat is gone, leaving Damien standing alone in the dark, looking cool with his crackling energy sword, which is pretty show-off behavior. Well, it looks like someone's having a terrible day because the dark mage is knocked out, coughing blood and buried under a mountain of rocks. And there's our hero Damien, sword pressed against the man's throat, offering a deal. Tell him where the black snake is, and he'll make it quick, though he seems far too generous. You know it's serious business when the eyes start glowing purple, and you really love this effect, don't you? Damien is not messing around. Alright, let's switch scenes. A little while later, we're rolling into the busy merchant city of Landwork, which looks like a perfect spot for a vacation. Inside the carriage, Victor is falling apart and can't believe they're back in Landwork, while Damon tries to calm him down and Victor stares at the book like it's about to jump off the page and chew him up, which honestly, it kind of feels like it wants to. Victor asks what Damien is reading, and the boy grins cheerfully to say it's just a dark magic book he got as rare loot after killing its previous owner. Victor is refusing to believe it and tells his friend that finding such dangerous things lying around is impossible. But suddenly he catches a strange, funky smell that definitely isn't cologne. And then it hits him. The smell isn't coming from the book. Just as the carriage comes to a perfect halt, Damon beams with excitement and shouts, "We're here!" Before they can fully hop out, Damien is already clutching a lumpy, stained, and stinky sack he hands to Victor, who immediately regrets every life choice he's ever made and asks, "What is this?" while already dreading the answer. Damien, with a straight face, asks, "A person's head? What is wrong with you?" While Victor explodes in anger, screaming that some jokes just aren't funny, making you wonder if Victor is even thinking clearly. He takes a tiny peek inside, and right back at him, an eye is staring, which means he's going to need a big chunk of cash for therapy. And yeet, he flings that thing away as if it were a hot potato. Damon snatches the bag like it's a baseball and tells Victor to chill, because dude, you're the one holding a head. Damien shoves something into his pocket and promises to explain later. But right now Victor has a mission he can't escape. His job is to deliver the head and that creepy book, which feels like the absolute worst food order ever. Damien insists this is the only way to stay out of trouble. And just look at Victor's face. He is the very definition of being in trouble. Where is this special package headed but to a huge, evil-looking tower with a snake on top, which is totally not suspicious at all since it's the Black Snake's main base. Damien just strolls right up to the front door, and the two guards on duty look up as if they've just seen a ghost. The thugs try to look scary and ask who he is, while Damien just shakes his head at their cheap hideout and wonders who had the bad idea to build it that way. He proudly declares his name as the Grand Damien Haxon of the Hashin Vice Council, demanding respect, only to have them mock him instead, and they are about to pay for that disrespect. But then I patched up a guy's brain and finally got him to fire up, where he said, "Wait a minute, the boss warned us about this dude," while Damien just crossed his arms looking cool and collected, and I said, "Yep, that's me, I have business with your boss, so move it." To everyone's surprise, the guard just waves him in, leaving even Damien a bit confused by how easy it was. And it's a trap, sure, so the other goon pulls out a pirate pistol. Bang! He fires a flare into the sky, the universal sign that we're about to get wrecked and needs help. Damien just watches it rise without a care in the world, making you wonder if he's a total hero or just a complete idiot. Yet, Patch gets all smug about it, asking if you really thought we'd just let you pass because yes, my dude, that is exactly what you just said. Suddenly, rooftops are filled with bad guys, and Damien plays dumb, asking, "What did you do?" while pretending he didn't see the giant red flare because the whole street has turned into a chaotic mess of armed thugs. It seemed the whole guild had gathered for the welcome party. But Damien just smirks, pulls out a tiny red pouch, and strikes them with his classic warning, "You'll regret it," while some very important folks enjoy a fancy, yet corrupt, dinner. Governor Sebastian Baker is living his best life and thanking Cedric, the Black Snake's boss, for the party. Over here is Sir Robert, a true hero among the knights who is already calling for another drink. Cedric, the top boss, just sat there taking it all in while the governor praised him. Then Cedric drops his master plan and lets the Black Snake take over all the other guilds, and the governor cheers the idea while promising to silence any complaints with his authority, all while thanking Sir Robert for his hard work. Cedric tells Robert he's way too humble, joking that being a guard in such a safe city is the hardest job there is. And the knight is devouring it with a blush so bright a schoolgirl would be jealous, leaving us all feeling quite sorry for him. As the two fools stumble through their drunken antics, Cedric just smirks to himself, knowing he's been playing them for a ride. That smile is pure evil because he's planning to take over the city with his snake so he never has to bow to anyone again. But right as he's lost in his dark thoughts, one of his thugs rushes in, completely terrified. Cedric's annoyed because I'm busy plotting my next move, yet he's insisting it's an emergency. So he steps outside to check out the commotion, realizing he probably shouldn't let the corrupt officials drink by themselves. The goon starts whispering frantically into your ear, and you can see the color draining from Cedric's face. "What?" Damien hacks in. He shouts so loudly the entire party freezes, ruining any chance they had to be quiet. He's mad as hell, probably wondering how the mage he hired messed up so badly. But hey, at least he had a backup plan. He tells a guy not to worry because he walked right into our trap. He walked in here knowing it was the end, just like the old saying goes. Speaking of that, back at the square, Damien is just chilling there, surrounded by 100 angry guys with swords. And then boom, Damien flares into a Super Saiyan and blasts a huge wave of purple energy straight at us. The artist is having a blast with these glowing eye shots, and Damien looks absolutely wild right now. And just like that, the whole mob gets blasted away, ending the fight with no challenge left at all. Damien watches the square filled with bodies and mutters to himself, "Well, that was a little messier than I expected." But hold on, the battle isn't finished because a fresh challenger has just stepped into the ring. 3 cloaked figures crash down with a heavy thud, oozing serious trouble, and their leader's glowing white eyes demand a favor, making you wonder who these final bosses are and what they want. From his fancy tower, Cedric gets that spidey sense tingle, peeks over the edge, and his jaw literally drops to the floor. Down in the courtyard, a sea of knocked-out goons surrounds Damon Hashin, who stands in the center looking like he just cleared the whole place all by himself. Cedric is completely losing his mind, thinking, wait, isn't this the useless Viscount's son? Because while rumors called him a nobody, this guy is clearly a one-man wrecking crew. The panic hits hard when he realizes his hired dark mage is likely doomed too. Yep, this is way too dangerous for him, so he needs to run away and call for help. But don't think it's finished, because 3 shadowy figures are waiting on the roof for round 2, and one of them shouts that Damon is a monster before throwing a glowing magical orb. And boom, he sends a huge fireball straight at Damien's face. The mage laughs at Damien, who confidently unleashes his ultimate thunder attack to vaporize the fireball and the enemies on the roof, only for his warning sense to suddenly flare up as a new threat strikes from behind. Bam! A massive armored guy smashes a warhammer right where Damien stood, and the sheer power from him has even our crazy hero sweating. Damon instantly realizes this isn't just any thug. Looking at that mighty presence, he's definitely a knight. Just as you'd expect, the knight didn't show up by himself. He dragged the city guard along, and suddenly things went from bad to worse. Suddenly, the governor of Landwork, Sebastian Baker, burst through the door in a rage. He's screaming at the top of his lungs, blaming Damien for all the mess and promising to make him pay. And get this, the governor calls Cedric a kind businessman and his goons innocent employees, even as the crowd whispers that he's corrupt. Cedric smirks, thinking he's safe, but Damon just points right at him and says, "You're the boss, right? Come here and take a punch," while openly mocking the governor's bad choices and calling him trash, even when the governor demands an apology that Damon refuses to give. The governor is fed up and yells for his knight, Sir Robert, to handle the job. The giant steps forward, ready to fight, while the city's guardian knight, Robert, tells Damien to give up and can't decide if the boy is incredibly brave or just an idiot. Damon kept it brief and bold, showing he was sure of himself. And he says it with the biggest, most cocky smirk you've ever seen. But deep down, our boy knows this is going to be hard. He's only acting calm while secretly waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Robert charges, his weapon slamming into theirs with a huge explosion that blasts Damon flying backward. His arm is buzzing with power from that single hit, and he winces while nervously scanning the crowd, wondering where his backup is. Just as Robert leaps for the final strike, a voice cries out, "Where are you looking?" Suddenly, a blur of movement jumps in to block the strike. A new person catches Robert's giant axe with one hand and tosses it away like a potato sack, smashing the ground when it lands. The crowd falls silent in shock as Robert scrambles to his feet, disbelief clouding his mind, and shouts out demanding to know who that person is. A hand starts to shimmer with a radiant, holy light. A woman with white hair and amazing armor stands there, making Robert's eyes go wide. Impossible, he thinks a paladin. The paladin turns and calls him young master, and our boy sighs in relief to ask what kept her away, showing his classic self. Just as things were getting cool, Victor showed up to ruin the moment. With his own guard standing beside him, he strikes a dramatic pose and shouts, "I have arrived." Oh no, the Holy Church is here. Cedric screams as panic takes over, knowing that their arrival means they've figured out his secret deal with the Dark Mages. While Damien playfully pinches Victor's cheek and teases him for being late, the paladin notes that Victor at least followed orders, and the servant puffs out his chest in pride. Of course, Victor, can handle your orders if there's nothing else. You can count on me, champ, but let's rewind the clock a few hours to when our hero Victor was preparing for a very important delivery. Deep inside the quiet church, the nun is trying to find a moment of peace to pray. She has no idea that her day is about to get way weirder. And here he comes. Victor bursts in completely out of breath, dragging a sack and a book, looking like he just ran a marathon while being chased by a ghost. The nun nods, confirming this is part of the Holy Church, while Victor nervously admits that his lord sent him with some rather spicy proof pointing to a dark mage. The nun's ears prick up at the words of a dark mage. Her eyes go wide as she demands to see the proof, and Victor hands over the book. She instantly senses the bad juju oozing off the book, a faint but unmistakable taste of dark magic. And then she spots the symbol carved into its cover. She dumps out the sack with a plopping sound, and out falls the severed head of the dark mage, making Victor scream so loud it sounds like it could break glass. And honestly, who can blame him? Her eyes start glowing a brilliant blue because she finally found him. One of the leaders of Yulon Agito stood tall among them. Suddenly, the nun act vanishes as she yanks Victor by his collar, demanding to know who sent him, then stands calmly before Damien and asks, "Are you Damon Haxon?" Damon nods to confirm his identity, and the paladin steps in to declare that the church now holds the proof and will lead the investigation from this point forward. The governor and Cedric are so nervous they're practically dripping sweat, but they both decide to stay out of it, and the paladin gives Damon a quiet, grateful smile. And don't that smug face look ridiculous as Damien smirks to himself, knowing everything is falling exactly into place for his crazy master plan. See, Damien knows the Holy Church well. They look like kind servants of God helping the common folk, but there's more to the story. But when it comes to heretics and demons, they instantly flip into crazy zealots who won't stop until they've gone on a holy rampage. At the front of this devoted army stand the paladins. Thanks to Damien's clever tricks, he has turned them into his allies. The paladin stands before the crowd and declares that the church is officially hunting a dark mage who works with them right here in Landwork. And here's the twist. She says the church will run the city until the investigation is done, which is basically a hostile takeover. The governor and his knight Robert are so furious they shout that Landwork is its own free city and the church has no say. The paladin crushes them down hard, claiming that rooting out heretics is God's will and that the church's power beats the kingdom's, which really stings. She hasn't finished yet. She glares at them and says, "Besides, you and your knight are our top suspects," which is a double blow. Robert sputters in disbelief while the paladin points an accusing finger right at Cedric Walker, the one walking red flag. That man hid and helped the dark mage, so just protecting him looks suspicious enough, which is why she insists she's right. The governor roars at Cedric for lying, but when the paladin suddenly shows the grimoire, the governor is totally defeated. She points out that the book is a complete record of everything Cedric bought for the dark mage, and now we're in trouble. Cedric shakes with pure fury, cursing that dark mage and screaming that leaving a paper trail is the one rule of crime you must never break. Cedric begs to say it's just a big mistake, but it's already too late as paladin knights surround him and the governor, with one simply shouting, "Take him!" Both of them get dragged away while screaming and fighting back the entire way. They never saw this day coming. Damien watches the whole thing with a smug grin, because he knows this crazy mastermind planned every single second of it. Cedric freezes in terror, realizing what these fanatics will do, and in a last-ditch effort, he screams for his only chance to save him. Sir Robert, are you truly willing to give up? Some of these crazy people are so obsessed with the game that they'll make you take the fall just to have a laugh. Robert pauses, his face hardening with a grim look as he decides he won't back down without a fight. Robert knows capture means death, so he unleashes his power and blasts the knights, holding him apart. He lets out a terrifying roar, shouting, "I'll kill them all and get away," while swinging his huge axe to crush everyone in his way. Cedric grins, thinking he's found a way out, but Damon just smirks because he knows Robert has just made a huge mistake. How silly. The paladin doesn't even waver as she meets the giant axe with one glowing punch. The blow sends a thunderous shockwave through the air that totally destroys the axe, leaving Robert so stunned he can't even make a sound. Cedric's jaw dropped to the floor in shock. Look at that face. Damien, however, looks totally unsurprised, which is exactly like him. The paladin's fist burns with a blazing blue fire. She warns that anyone who disobeys gods will be punished, proving that the only way to stop a rebellion is to make sure no one messes with the paladins. As her holy light bursts forth, the paladin speaks truth so loud that everyone around must listen. If you dare cross God, you will face his justice without any questions. And in a blink, Cedric, the Black Snake's feared leader, is down on his knees, utterly destroyed. As the divine cleanup crew gets to work, the corrupt Governor Baker is dragged away, screaming. Victor watches in disbelief, thinking, wait, that's it? The scary boss is just a fat guy, because the rumors were way better. Cedric is so angry he's shaking, unable to believe a random kid just took him out one-on-one and crush his pride. The paladin steps forward to thank Damien, but our hero is already in full detective mode, sensing her massive hidden power and realizing she must be an Azure Flame apprentice, just like the legendary church enforcer brigandine who is famous for his endless crusade against heretics. Just thinking about the saint sends Damon racing through flashbacks of epic boss battles from his past life, proving that this PTSD is very real, my friends. The paladin acts like he believes the lie, thanking Damon Haxon for helping him take out a Yuan officer. She tells him the church will turn a blind eye to his extra activities if he gets a reward, so Damon acts confused and asks what she means. She immediately calls him out on his mess and asks if he brought us here to clean it up, forcing Damien to quickly spin a lie about a dark mage who wasn't just cursing his land but trying to hurt his family. And in that moment, her face softens completely. They have a weakness for family drama, which is just classic. She tells him she'll overlook it because it was personal, and Damon is impressed that this paladin isn't the strict and unyielding figure he imagined. As a bonus prize, she promises they'll instantly collect the bounty on the dark mage Agito's head. We're talking a massive pile of 1,000 gold coins. Victor is going crazy over a tiny castle's worth of money, folks. Just when you think Damien, our crazy guy, will take the money, he refuses it and asks for something different, leaving Victor looking like he's about to explode. The paladin, curious and willing to listen, agrees to hear him out as Damien boldly requests a secret mana training method from the church. She's completely baffled, wondering why a guy who just took out an entire gang on his own would need a beginner's guide to mana. Damien knows the truth. He only beat the Dark Mage because he used a cheat code called the Archlee's Authority. To truly challenge the world's final bosses like Archlich Dorgo and his commanders, he must grind his own skills because his current mana technique is just a basic level 1 tutorial. He tells her he only knows the simplest tricks, and she stares at him in total shock. She can already feel his incredible power radiating from him. And if he's telling the truth, his natural talent is so extraordinary that this kid's potential is truly off the charts. She realizes he's brilliant and ruthless against heretics, and suddenly she has a brilliant idea. She gives him a sly grin and asks if he'd be interested in a much better option. Damon asks, a better alternative? And instantly takes the bait. Yes, she beams, holding out her hand and asking if he wants to be a paladin. But after a dramatic pause, Damon just stares her down and says no, leaving her completely heartbroken and wondering how anyone could ever refuse such a glorious offer. She jumps into a fiery speech about how amazing it is to be God's chosen warrior and fight against evil. At the same time, Damien thinks to himself, yeah, no thanks. With no faith in his heart and no interest in bowing to the church, he quickly spins a wildly ridiculous lie on the spot. He wears a smug, holy grin and claims he's not good enough for God's love, leaving Victor shaking his head in disbelief at the sheer nonsense. He insists on traveling the world first as a humble devotee, and though Victor is certain it will fail, he is utterly shocked when it works perfectly, leaving the paladin deeply moved by his sincere effort. She offers him her secret and promises that no matter what, the church door will always be open to him if he ever changes his mind. Damon smiles and nods, secretly thinking that whatever was said will never happen, until she introduces herself as Agnes, the legendary first apprentice of the Azure Flame, which makes Damon immediately shift into his perfect noble act. Now that the dull talk is done, Damon wants to get back to business, and though Agnes is confused, she finally says yes. He calmly walks over to the defeated Cedric, who immediately starts ranting, but before he can even finish his threats, Damien drives a fist straight into his gut. Then he makes things even worse by saying, "Your belly is so fat it feels like punching a cushion." Ouch! Cedric tries to curse at him again, but Damon just silences him with a huge kick to the face. The blow sends the huge man flying through the air, leaving Agnes and Victor staring in shock. Damien sighs in relief, grins with a crazy look in his eyes, and mutters, "I feel so much better now. That kid is definitely messed up." Victor, trembling with fear, whispers to his young master that it's finally over, only for Damien to turn and flash him a confident smirk. Yeah, probably, but that wasn't the comforting answer Victor was hoping for. And meanwhile, over at the fancy Lion Bloom estate, a whole new mess is starting to unfold. Maris Holland Lion Bloom storms into the room, screaming in anger for his son, Erwin. He discovers the kid shivering under the bed covers, trembling like a leaf caught in a hurricane. Erwin pops up from his covers with a face full of fear, but his dad, the Marquis, grabs him by the collar and shouts what just happened. Erwin stammers that a stranger tried to kill him with a fork, leaving his dad shocked to see his usual happy kid shaking like a leaf. Holland's face twists into pure murderous rage, and he snarls, "Tell me, who dared to do this to you?" Beneath the angry glare of the sign, the knight standing nearby finally lets the secret out. It was Damien of House Hashin, and the name itself seemed to sink into the air as the Marquez's face fell dark. As the Marquis's power swells, the room reacts by shaking a nearby vase violently. Then his presence flares up, shattering the pottery into a million pieces because he is so furious that the lowly Haxan dared to touch his son. And in his mind, there is no other answer but that Damien must have used a cowardly trick. A scary, evil smile spreads across his face as he orders his men to rush people to the Hashin estate and grab that kid like a dog. And oh boy, here we go again. Just when things were quiet, a new group arrived at Hashin estate. Agnes the Paladin with two friends wearing scary cloaks. Damon's parents are freaking out like crazy, looking so terrified it's as if the Grim Reaper himself had just walked through the door instead of a paladin standing by her side. But inside, Damon's dad is furious, thinking, "Great, my troublemaker son just invited a religious fanatic into our home," while Damien, of course, couldn't care less. Agnes casually drops the bombshell that her whole crew is staying, but the Viscount immediately tries to wiggle out by saying their house is too small, a lie we all know it is. But then Agnes pulls out a giant bag of gold, and suddenly the Viscount's tiny house feels like it has endless space, while his greedy smile grows absolutely shameless. While his parents drool over their new treasure, Agnes thanks Damien for his help, and he just shrugs in that classic too cool for school way. Even our boy Damien is caught off guard, knowing she'd asked for something else, but never expecting a full house call that leaves him flustered. Agnes suddenly turns serious and reveals that she isn't here for the case at all, but for him, and as her intense smile spreads, you can tell something wild is about to happen. And of course, his parents are frozen in the doorway, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. They are completely mistaken because they think Agnes is crazy about their son, while tiny Damien is secretly melting with secondhand embarrassment. But nope, it's not a confession. Agnes just hands over the mana cultivation manuals he asked for, which is a total surprise. Damien stared at the two manuals, suddenly realizing he'd only ordered one and wondering if she had mixed up the order. She says it felt wrong to hand him a cultivation manual without a matching sword technique, which is super thoughtful. But honestly, I think Chibi Agnes is just adorable. So he gains both the destructive sword and energy techniques, and even though Damien thinks they aren't needed, he happily accepts them anyway since free power is just that, free. But wait, he takes a closer look, and his eyes go wide because these moves are way beyond anything he's ever seen, not even back in his old life. Agnes admitted that getting these items was a real pain, especially since many people in the church weren't happy about her giving them away. She had to pull them a master said so card, and get this, her master believes Damon is the chosen one they've been waiting for. So the plot thickens as she grabs his hand, looks him in the eyes, and asks him one more time to become a paladin, but Damien just gently pulls his hand back, leaving her oof cold. He apologizes, and though you see disappointment in her eyes, she handles the rejection like a champ. She even lets him know the offer is always waiting if he changes his mind, which is a very graceful way to leave things. Damon watches her go, his face dark and serious, while a big idea forms in his mind. Her grand conclusion was savage. She's a total fanatic whose obsession is on another level, with 0 confessions and just 1 rejection. Meanwhile, back at the villain's hideout, Agnes' 2 sidekicks are hard at work solving the case their own clumsy detective style. One of them starts talking, not buying the official story, and he asks his partner, doesn't this whole thing seem a little off? Since the dead mage Agito was a big deal, a high-ranking dark wizard who had been evading the church for years. So, how'd a random, noble kid manage to take him down when the numbers just don't add up, leaving the grunts to finish their paperwork while Lady Agnes gives it no second thought? Suddenly, Agnes pops up right behind them and says they can trust Damon Haxon, which is perfect timing. She admits they have good reason to doubt him, but she's certain he told the truth and will stand by him no matter what. One guy still doesn't believe it, struggling to accept that Damien could actually take out a pro like a Guido. Then the story jumps back to show Damien explaining it all with a smug grin, saying, I dodge his attack and slice his head off, keeping it as simple as that. The subordinate is stunned and asks, are you really saying he just dodged and killed him? And the answer is yes. That's exactly what happened. Agnes admits she doubted him, too, which is why she turned into a shadowy watcher, spying on him as he battled the Black Snake Gang. She watched him go up against dozens of men alone and not get a single scratch, just absolutely crushing them all. The real shock came when he sliced a magic fireball out of the sky with his sword, something that absolutely shouldn't happen. Her 2 subordinates stare with their mouths hanging open, wondering if that's even real, while Agnes whispers that true sword masters can block anything, even magic, making the situation feel huge. Now she admits he's not teaching a sword master, but confirms he's an unstoppable warrior, and she reveals her real plan to introduce Damien to her master because she sees him as a huge asset for the church. She tells them to shut up, stop doubting, and get back to work, ending the argument for good. Elsewhere, the scene shifts to a group of knights from House Lion Bloom galloping across a field, led by a tall blonde man. Apprentice Knight Opulpus is jumping for joy, stretching and shouting like he just won the biggest prize in the world. His city-born friend Lavender is whining about the stink of cow dung, which is pretty babyish of him. Their arguing stops instantly when the leader shouts for silence, proving this man is serious and plays no tricks. Meet Garrick, a knight sworn to the Lion Bloom family, who has that classic jerk anime villain vibe that you've seen 1,000 times before. They reach a hill with a view of the Hashin estate, and Garrick asks his men to remind him of their mission. The mission is just to catch Damon Haxon, which seems easy enough, doesn't it? Garrick just laughs it off, believing that a simple arrest isn't enough revenge for the shame his master suffered. Just then, a poor old man with a cane happened to walk right by, putting him in the wrong place at the wrong time. Garrick shouts to the old man, who spins around with a puzzled look on his face. He looks up at the terrifying knights with their glowing red eyes. After making sure the old man was really on the estate, Garrick attacks him without a single warning, proving just how crazy he is. He says that refusing to bow to the Lion Bloom crest is a terrible crime, proving he makes up rules just to be mean. His own men are completely confused, and then you see a terrible, wicked grin spread across Garrick's face, showing he has a crazy idea. His new plan is straightforward. They'll roll up to the estate and drag Damien out into the open. And then they're just going to slaughter everyone they see. Artist, you really went dark with this one. That kid's face is pure terror. This is not going to